Do you get time with the Stanley Cup?
I did not last year.
Oh, you were robbed.
But I was, invited to so many things that I did. But if it goes the Panthers' way, because of all of our TV people who didn't get any time with it, because I did personally, I may ask this year, hey, can I have an hour or two at my expense? I'm going to rent a place. So, all our production people and stuff could do it. I'm going to actually ask that this year.
Okay. Does Roy get the invite here? Roy is the biggest Panther fan we have. Does he get an invite to
Great question.
Hang out with
Yeah,
Stanley?
I guess now.
Right.
Yeah, I guess now he does. That's correct.
How about me? Am I getting an invite or?
You too. I guess now correct. Your show gets an invite.
Roy was complaining that he's tired. He's happy tired. But I'm assuming, Goldie, that you too you're tired, but it's a happy kind of tired, right?
It is a great kind of tired, Stu. This is going on 3 years now from training camp in the middle of September until late June. But forget about me, forget about Roy. How about thinking about Sam Reinhart and Gustav Forsling, who have played more games than anybody in hockey history over a 3-year period?
Yeah. No, I'm not thinking about them. I'm only thinking about Roy, and I'm only thinking about you. I mean, with all due respect to those guys.
And I appreciate that. Yeah. And I appreciate that more than you know.
Go ahead, Roy.
Yeah, I barely got time with the Stanley Cup. The very, very last day that I was down here, all the media took pictures with the Stanley Cup, and that was the one and only time I actually got to spend a chance with the Cup. As far as Connor McDavid is concerned, going with the Oilers, there's a rumor going on around that if he doesn't win in this series, that he may look to leave Edmonton. You think there's any chance of that happening?
Wow.
I think there's double edge there. So that's one of them. He has 1 year left. So if he's planning on leaving, whether they win or not, does he tell them a year before so they can get a king's ransom for him this summer? The other school of thought is, like the LeBron James, who had to go back to Cleveland to win one, that he won't leave if he loses because he needs to win one there before he leaves. So you got both kind of, both sides of it. Does he stay if he wins? Does he stay if he leaves? Does he give them notice? Who knows how it's going to turn out? It is a huge story, though. He's the best player in the league. And does he decide to leave, win or lose? And if he does he just play it out and leave as an unrestricted free agent? The whole situation is pretty fascinating, and I don't think anybody knows what he's thinking. And he may not either. If he loses Game 6 or Game 7, he may say, hey, I can't go anywhere until I bring a championship to Edmonton.
Right. That's what Kevin Durant did, and he got a lot of criticism for it. In fact, Stugotz's personal record book is built around Kevin Durant's decision to leave Oklahoma City and join Golden State, a team that was just fine without him and won the title before he even got there. Goldie, how much pressure is on Connor McDavid tonight? Meaning, if they lose the cup here for the second consecutive year, what's the reaction going to be in Edmonton?
Well, look, if he doesn't have a real good game and he finishes a 6-game series with 1 goal, you can look at him. I think the reaction to Edmonton is going to be, you don't have enough around Connor. You don't have a legitimate goaltender, especially when you're going up against the future Hall of Famer, in Sergei Bobrovsky. You've got to improve the depth. You've got to improve the people around him. I believe that will be the narrative in Edmonton. I believe that will be the narrative around the NHL. And hopefully outside of Edmonton, they do look at it and say, hey, let's look at the whole body of work. The Florida Panthers are the best defensive team in all of sports. In all of sports.
Wow.
Nobody can lock it down like the Panthers. And I'm hoping they don't lump it all on Connor McDavid. I don't believe they will in Edmonton, and I really don't think they will around the league.
How big is the Zach Hyman injury in this series? Because it seems like Corey Perry had to step up for him as far as picking up rebounds and trying to score on that situation. That's kind of like Zach Hyman's bread and butter. So how big is that absence for the Oilers?
There's no doubt, Roy. Look, the Panthers are an anomaly with their depth. You're talking whichever line. I guess the Lundell line is the third line, but that's like a top line. So they're an anomaly as far as that's concerned. Most teams okay, do not have that kind of depth. So then you take a guy like that out, and it's like a trickle down, right? They have Perry up there. Then the next game, he's on the fourth line. They go Draisaitl and McDavid together, which, by the way, how good are the Panthers? They've outscored the Oilers' even strength 3-1 in the series when those two guys are on the ice together. That's
Amazing.
pretty outrageous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So there's no doubt. He's a guy that gets in the goalie's kitchen. Besides, as you say, Roy, Perry and maybe a couple of others occasionally. It's hard to find guys that do that. Luckily for the Panthers, they've got 4 or 5 of them that do that at the net. So no doubt he is a loss for them.
Hey, Goldie. Hey, Roy. I respect your two's hockey opinions more than anything. I'm kind of this Johnny-come-lately when it comes to hockey, playoff hockey especially, as a Ranger fan. I'm workshopping a take here where the biggest loser this Stanley Cup is the Boston Bruins, because you have Brad Marchand, who plays 16 seasons there, one of the best players in their franchise history, and now the Bruins have to watch him go on this legendary cup run and become a Panthers fan favorite. So does that take have some legs?
They should throw a parade for him like they did for Ray Bourque. Jesus.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, let's go through the list of franchises the Panthers have kind of, quote, ruined the last 3 years. We'll start with the Bruins.
Yep.
We may be going to Toronto. Mitch Marner's leaving. Who knows what happens there? The Rangers were actually 2 games away from beating the Panthers and going to the Stanley Cup Final. And they were up 2-1, and they were in overtime in game number 4 till Jacob Trouba took that silly penalty. And then the Rangers don't even make the playoffs. The bottom falls out. So, the Brad Marchand thing is amazing. I'm not sure if the Bruins are rethinking it and saying, you know what, we should have just given him whatever he wanted. It's amazing the Panthers were able to get him. And even more amazing, at 37 years old, he is having the best Stanley Cup final in hockey history, more than 100 years for a guy his age. It is amazing. I also think, like so many other guys that have come to the Panthers, he's in a perfect situation. I'm not taking anything away from him, okay? But all these guys that come here, they slide in. So Sam Reinhart slides into the lineup, and now he's with Barkov, and the list goes on of all of these players that were doing the job elsewhere, but then they just take it to a different level here. And yeah, the Bruins, look, I'm sure there's some with Boston, including the fans, that are happy for the guy. And then there are others that are shaking their heads saying, you know what, at that trade deadline in that final hour, they should have just handed him a blank check. Say, you want 3 years, you want 4 years, whatever you want, stick around.
Goldie, what do you say to a Panther fan who can't get himself to root for Marchand? His name's Mike Ryan.
You know what? You got to say, hey, Stu, look who you're talking to.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I can't count it, and I'm trying to be pretty professional and impartial on the air. I'm sure I've taken some shots at the guy over the last 16 years.
Of course you have.
Number one, I don't care. And guess what? Number two, more importantly, he doesn't care.
Right.
He mended all those fences as soon as he walked into that dressing room. I think him and Sam Bennett kind of made up at the Four Nations, actually. And what do I say to a Panther fan? It is about the wins. I say the same thing to the Yankee fans who would not have won a World Series, I'll say it what it is, without Doc Gooden, Darryl Strawberry, Roger Clemens, Wade Boggs, all guys that were hated. It's sports, man. We hate them when they're wearing the other jersey. We love them when they're in our jersey. I absolutely love Brad Marchand both on and off the ice. That's the other thing, Stu. I never knew he was this good of a guy. The dude is awesome.
Right.
Listen, Goldie, you're no Jack Edwards, and you should be very, very happy about that. I can tell you that right now. So the way we're looking at things right now, if they win tonight,
it's a shot at Jack. I know. We'll let it go.
Yeah, it definitely is a shot at Jack. But the way we're looking at it right now, if they win tonight, Conn Smythe's going to either Sam Bennett or Brad Marchand. That's going to be a very, very difficult choice. What say you?
As they're both unrestricted free agents, I think they should give it to somebody that has term on their contract. Make life easier for Bill Zito.
Give it to Bob.
You want to know my honest opinion? That's my honest opinion. Now, maybe it's a little sentimental, and looking back over the body of work of 3 years, I think I'd give it to Sergei Bobrovsky. I believe Sergei Bobrovsky allows this team to play with the offensive freedom and play the system they do, because they know as long as you're not giving up breakaways and droves and 3-on-1s, The dude is going to make the save. You can count on one hand and less than a hand. And you know this, Roy. You watched every game closely. The number of goals over the last 2 months that have gone in that you, after the goal goes in, go, oh, man, he's got to stop that. Like, how many were there? 2, 3 maybe in 20-something games? So it's going to go to Sam Bennett. Look, he's having one of the best postseasons ever. I mean, 15 goals in 22 games. Absolutely outrageous. I think he gets it unless Marchand ends up with a hat trick tonight and pulls out an overtime heroics. Then maybe he gets it. But I got to tell you, Sergei Bobrovsky, who would have won it last year if they didn't lose the 3 in a row after up 3-0, like I said, maybe it's a little naive and sentimental for me, but I think people don't realize the effect that Bobrovsky has on the 18 skaters in front of him.
Goldie, I would tell you, Game 4, the game in which he gave up 5 goals, it's the best game I've ever seen a goalie play when giving up 5 goals.
Right.
I mean, they should have scored 10 that night.
He's had a lot of those, Stugotz. I mean, like last game, everyone's, the Panthers locked it down. Marchand, outrageous goals. All true, okay? Let's remember, Connor Brown had a breakaway 40 seconds into the game. I mean, some of those saves, and it's a great point you bring up, Stugotz, because – the game that they lost, the game 4. Oh, no, that wasn't it. The game that Edmonton tied. So the Perry goal, game 2. Remember, he tied with 18 seconds left?
Yes, and all the days are running together. You guys are tired. You're happy tired, but go ahead.
It's nuts. There's been 3 overtimes. I can't remember.
I know.
With 50 seconds left, there was the patented McDavid at that left faceoff circle, seam pass to Draisaitl for the one-timer. He came over and made that save. If Corey Perry doesn't score 35 seconds later, that save is being shown everywhere. It's all anybody's talking about. But because the game ended up going to overtime, those things get lost. So I agree with you. Edmonton scored some goals in this series, but he has been absolutely fantastic, especially when they've needed him to be, when the Oilers bring some of those flurries. And let me say this about him as well, because not every goalie can do this. But the way the Panthers play defense between intermissions, TV timeouts, sometimes he goes 20, 30 minutes of real time, maybe seeing one shot. Right. Like Game 5, they didn't have a shot on goal the last 11 minutes of the first period. You're talking about a guy standing around or sitting in the dressing room for like a half hour without seeing a shot on goal. That's not easy. And then all of a sudden, in comes Connor McDavid. Some goalies have a little bit of a hard time with that. Sergei handles it great. I sound like Sergei Bobrovsky's agent and PR firm. I can't believe it.
Yeah, but you're doing a great job. Voice of the Panthers, Steve Goldstein with us. Oilers going back to Skinner tonight, right move?
I thought it was the wrong move going away from him, Stu. I know things were bad, and this is no offense. Calvin Pickard's in the NHL. Go to Hockey DB and look up Calvin Pickard. No disrespect to him at 32 years old.
Right.
He's a borderline NHL player. He's played 150 AHL games the last few years. I know he's done a great job. He was 29-10 this year and 7-0 in the playoffs. But, and Roy, I know you're smiling this, 7-0 with an 888 goals, save percentage, and they do play well in front of him. I think when you get down to the nitty gritty, and this goes for every sport, you dance with the girl that you brought. That's my opinion. So now they're going back to him when he's in a tougher spot, facing elimination on the road. I understand it. The Panthers roasted him in that Game 4, and they did come back and win once he came in. We all know it's the old backup quarterback syndrome. It is a whole different ballgame coming in the third quarter when you're down 28-0 and they're in a prevent defense than it is sitting there as a quarterback for a week doing all the media, knowing you're going to start and they're game planning against you. Little different. NHL teams don't game plan against goalies, but I was so confident in game number 5 in that goalie matchup with so much on the line that the Panthers were not going to lose the Bobrovsky-Pickard matchup. So long story short, Stu, I think they should have started him every game, right, and I think it's the right move in Game 6.
Yeah, but I don't think any of that was Calvin Pickard's fault, considering how smothering the Panthers' defense was against Edmonton, right?
Well, I agree, but, you start looking at those goals, Roy, he gets very compact. He's a very athletic goalie. So he goes in tight, right? That means you have corners, okay? Brad Marchand, Sam Reinhart. These guys are picking corners against him, no pun intended. You're probably right. It's probably a 5-2 Panther winning Game 5 either way. But my point is, now you're asking to go back to him facing elimination. And look, maybe the guy compartmentalizes all of it and he comes in and plays great. To me, you play your best players. And I think Stuart Skinner's a better goalie than Calvin Pickers. That's it.
Goldie, I thought it was interesting how honest Matthew Tkachuk was today when talking about this game, saying that we have to treat this as a Game 7. The Panthers are 0-2 this playoffs in closeout games at home. They lost 3 straight last year to close out the Oilers before that Game 7. What do you think the team has kind of learned from those experiences?
Yeah, these have been tough spots. You're 100% right. I mean, everybody thought second round, Game 6 after the blowout on Toronto, the series was over, except the 20 guys in that Leafs bench, and then they go and kill them in Game 7. So there's been a little history, whether it's subconscious, of course it is, they're not trying to take their foot off the gas, of, when the other team is desperate and needs to win, that they've done that. I think tonight is different. I think they know the animal that they're facing. They've already won 2 games at Edmonton. You shouldn't have to go up there and win 3 out of 4 to win the cup. You got to take care of business at home. And I think your point about what Matthew Tkachuk said, that's what they're talking about. Hey, no messing around. This isn't Toronto. This isn't up 2-0 against Tampa and, you give them Game 3. This is not the time to not play your best because you don't want to go back up there for a Game 7, not against 97 and 29. Right now, they've kind of been like that anaconda. They've sucked the life out of them a little bit, especially offensively.
Yes.
This is no time to let them off the mat.
By you mean all of you, not just the players. No one wants to go back to Edmonton, right? You and Roy included, correct?
We prefer not to take the most difficult trek.
Right.
Stu, there are further treks, like Miami to Vancouver, but there's a million direct flights.
Yes, there are.
It is not easy getting to Edmonton. The good news is if you go through Denver, when you get delayed, which inevitably you will, you got the Yellowway Steakhouse, and hopefully some employer is paying for it.
Right.
So, that's not the end of the world, Stu, but yeah, nobody. I mean, the Oilers have to go back there right after the game. No one wants to go back with them.
Right. Win or lose, they go home. Right?
That's right.
Goldie, is this team, this is crazy to say, is this Panthers team better than last year's Panthers team that won the Stanley Cup?
We've talked about that all year, and it's almost impossible to say until you win it. I don't think there's any question. Now, you had guys like Brandon Montour, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Kevin Stenlund, Nick Cousins, Ryan Lomberg, Kyle Opozo, all those guys left. But you look at and Bill Zito, by the way, I know people bring up Howie Roseman, so they're 1-2.
Yeah.
To me, Zito number 1, Howie Roseman with the Philadelphia Eagles number 2.
Yep.
These guys are the best executives in sports. I don't even think it's close, to be honest with you. You look at what Zito did, bringing in a whole new 4th line. And Greer, Nosek, Gadjevich was here. They had the foresight to pick him up last year and then extend him. You go and trade for Sturm, so you have the depth. But then you bring in Seth Jones and Brad Marchand, Stu, and basically you give up nothing. You gave up a backup goalie,
right,
which may be good. Hopefully Spencer Knight has a great career. And you give up some draft picks that may or not make the league like 5 years from now.
Right.
So to me, bringing in Jones and Marchand, and last year they also brought in Tarasenko, that's the difference. And then to have those 2 guys playing the way they're playing, and Nate Schmidt, by the way, who they brought in before the season, playing the way he is playing, yeah, I think when you add in the experience they've got now with winning it last year and all of those players I mentioned, I do believe they got to win one more game, right, to prove it. Because if you don't win it, you're not a better team.
Right.
But I do believe they're a better team.
Who is the most underappreciated player on this team? Because to me, it might be Eetu Luostarinen.
So interesting you say that, Roy. You go back 3 years, they have not lost a playoff series when that dude plays. The only series they've lost, they've won 10 of 11 playoff
Stanley
series.
Cup.
He did not play against Vegas, Stugotz.
Right.
He was out. He broke his foot.
Crazy.
When he plays, nobody beats them 4 out of 7. Incredible to say. I know that's simplifying things. So I agree. I do think, Roy, he's getting a lot of credit now. The guy I'm going to go with, because he kind of slides under the radar, I know, and he didn't score 57 goals again, Sam Reinhart. next to Alexander Barkov, might be the best all-around player in hockey. Does not get thought of that way because he scored the 57 goals, then he scored the cup winner, and he's a sniper and all those things. This guy is not a good player. Forget the goals. He's not a good player. He is a great player. He finished second in the voting to Alexander Barkov as the best defensive forward in hockey. I think we take him for granted a little bit, and we kind of forget everything that he does. It's great to have Barkov doing all those things, Roy, all the little things defensively. But then you throw another guy on the top line that does it. It forces everyone to play that way. So if it's possible, and Bob gets talked about him, Barkov and Kachuk and Marchand and Bennett are all the rage right now. I'm going to go with Sam Reinhart. I think this guy, 200 feet, is better than anybody realizes.
Goldie, I know no one wants to get ahead of themselves, but if the Panthers pull this off in Game 6 or Game 7, they win back-to-back cups, they go to 3 straight Stanley Cups. As someone who has covered South Florida sports for 25, 30 years now, Goldie, we're getting old together, my man.
Yeah, we are.
Yes, but as someone who has covered this market for 25, 30 years, where would this team go in the pantheon of all-time great South Florida teams?
Well, to me, there's no doubt it's the hardest to do. Number one, the sport. I mean, the Heat got the big three. Look, you get 2 or 3 of the best players in the league together in that sport, you are going to win championships. We know that historically, whether it's Magic and Kareem or Bird and pick whoever you want, McHale and Parrish and LeBron and whoever. You're just going to win championships. We know that. You go back to when the Dolphins went back-to-back and went to 3 in a row, totally different time. Guys were in free agents. There was no salary cap. I think it's the greatest run that we've seen in South Florida, and it might be the greatest run that we've seen in recent sports history because of the sport. I mean, think of it this way. They're going to play the most games in sports history.
Crazy.
Over a 3-year period.
Yeah.
No one's ever played this many games. You got Reinhart and Forsling in Game 6 tonight are going to set the record for the most games by a player over a 3-year period. You think over 3 years, Stugotz, a guy like Barkov, right? He's been running around after 82 games, running around and chasing Braden Point, Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, numerous times and shutting them down. I may be biased. I think it's the greatest run that we've seen. Nobody's done this in a full 82-game season with a salary cap. When you have a stretch, and I'm not taking anything away from Mahomes and the Chiefs, that's one game. You got to win 3 times, right, to win the Super Bowl, or maybe 4 if you don't have home field advantage. This thing is a whole nother season. They're going over, what are we tonight? This is the 105th game that they've played since October.
That's silly.
I think I can't believe they're able to do what they're doing physically and mentally.
He's so right, Taylor. It's the toughest run. I know you have a question for Goldie. We have to get him out of here in a second, though. But the Patriots, that recipe was, let's win the division, have the 1 seed, 2 home games, boom, we're in the Super Bowl again. I mean, this is the toughest trophy to win in sports, Goldie.
It really is. It's the whole grind. And, sometimes you come back like they did this year, and it's no guarantee you even make the playoffs. Like there's good teams in the NHL in that 9-10 spot that don't even make it. So
Boston.
First you have to do – there you go. First you have to do enough. I remember I was talking to Paul Maurice in August. And I say, you know what? You've never been through this. You've never won it. What's the biggest challenge? And he goes, everyone now thinks – this is a direct quote from Paul Maurice. Everyone now thinks they're special. So on that Tuesday night in Ottawa in December, when you got that Stanley Cup ring and everybody's been celebrating, what do you do when it's not on? Are you going to yell at them? Are you really going to yell at them after they just won a cup and they went? So it's a great balancing act. They have played it perfectly, Stugotz. Remember, late in the regular season, they were struggling. People like, remember this, Roy? What's going on with the Panthers? You can't just turn it on and off in professional sport. This team can.
Yeah.
They took their foot off the gas a little bit. They knew mentally and physically you can't play the way they play 110 times. They've managed it perfectly.
When you're talking about this historic run, one of the things that kind of comes with it is the Bandwagon fans when you've made it to 3 straight Stanley Cups and you're on the doorstep of winning back-to-back cups. What would you say to show off your credentials and the lows that you've seen? Like, for me as a Knick fan,
he's the voice of the Panthers, man. He's been through the worst years you could imagine.
Yes, but what would he say to show that off? Because for me as a Knick fan, it's like I watched Alexei Shved and Lou Munson, and then it's like, okay, you've seen some stuff.
Right, bona fides. Yes.
Yeah.
You've seen some
Well, I'll tell you this. I kind of can relate to you because growing up in New York, I used to go to Knick games the year Patrick Ewing broke his leg and Fred Cofield and Pat Cummins were on the team, and they won 16 times. So it was great because you could buy the tickets outside the Garden Den when they were paper tickets, like 2 for $15 just before tip-off, and walk right into the yellow seats for those that remember the old configuration. So they went from 1997, first round against the Rangers. They won Game 2 at Madison Square Garden. They went from that game until Game 2 in 2012 without winning a playoff game. And they only made it once. So it's been incredible to see what they're doing from the top, ownership, and then bringing in Bill Zito. And I see the way they treat the players, the way they travel, the medical staff. By the way, that's a big factor that no one will really talk about. Being able to play this many games over 3 years at this level, their medical staff is second to none. The way they handle it, the way they handle days off, the recovery, it's truly unbelievable. They're revolutionary, I think, in that way. So I think it's awesome that we have Bandwagon fans, but I am happy for the fans that, suffered through all of that. And there were some days where you thought, how do you get out of this? That they tried to rebuild in the early 2000s with, high draft picks, with, Horton and Weiss and Bouwmeester, and they said, just wait, it'll work. And it didn't. Then they tried that again in 2010. I think they had 6 picks in the top 50, and that didn't work. So it's I'm still amazed. I can't believe they're playing for a second straight championship.
It's amazing.
That would be it's amazing.
Roy, before you get to your question, this is the way he answers it. All those games, all those non-playoff games, I called all of them. The Tuesday night in Ottawa, I called that game. That's how he answers that question.
So Bill Zito trades Jonathan Huberdeau for Matthew Tkachuk, and then he hires Paul Maurice and overhauls their entire strategy and how they play the game. They go from a transition offense to more of a forward-checking style. So let's talk about the importance of Paul Maurice, who finally got his first Stanley Cup championship after 30 years last season. How important is he to this team?
I think he's, in a lot of ways, the key to the whole thing. I think I chuckle when he says, all I do is stand back there in a suit. To come in, take a 122-point team, which they were, the highest scoring team in the league in like 30 years since Mario and Yager and the Penguins in 96, and say, hey, guys, we got to change all this. We can still do it, but here's my 4 or 5 non-negotiables of the way we play the game. Then to go through that first half of the season, remember, they were 9 points out of a playoff spot. Bill Zito never wavered. He was always behind him. And to have the kind of character in that dressing room, because we all know this in sports, right? The players are the ones that hold the cards, not the coach. You can't trade 15 guys, but you can fire a coach. For them, and it was a struggle for them to pick up the system. It's a hard way to play.
Yeah.
It's easier to just fly the zone and try to stretch and, okay, I come back to the bench. That didn't work. And by the way, 2 or 3 times out of every 10, it would work and it looked awesome and we're all going crazy. What a play. How about the 7 times it doesn't work?
Right.
For the character in the room to stick with it and not say, forget this guy. Let's go back to playing the way it's not working. We're 9 points out of a playoff spot. They never wavered on it, and finally they got it. I think he's meant everything. He's a player's coach. He empowers them, treats them like men. Here's the 4 or 5 non-negotiables in our game: what you do with the puck, what you do defensively, how you support each other, closeness. It's a 5-man unit. We do that. Everything else is good. You men decide it. It was great. I thought he was mic'd up after the Carolina win, Eastern Conference Final. If people saw this, they were taking the picture. He says to Tkachuk, hey, who's coming in the picture? You decide, whatever you think. Yeah, the whole staff, everybody get in. He lets Sylvain Lefebvre run the defense. I do believe him when he says there's some nights he's not really sure what's going on back there with the ice time. He hasn't been in a penalty killing meeting since November of 2023.
What?
He lets them handle it. Jamie Compon runs the power play. Sometimes on the bench, if he sees something, he goes over to Jamie. Hey, what about? And Jamie gives him the, hey, Mo, we're okay. Go back down there. We're handling it. He allows people to do their job. He has nothing to do with the goalies. He lets Bobrovsky and Rob Tallis, they do their thing. He is the CEO of this thing. And you got to give Bill Zito a ton of credit because Zito goes out and gets players that fit the way he wants to play. Look at a guy like Nico Mikkola as a free agent. So I think Paul Maurice has been everything. And, and as everybody knows in South Florida, he's just a great guy.
Goldie, I'll tell you what, in two quick ones, we get you out of here. This is a Mount Rushmore game, okay? Because if Paul Maurice can win back-to-back Stanley Cups, he will move into my Mount Rushmore of South Florida coaches, and I kick Spoelstra out. How about that? Jimmy, Shula, Riley, and Maurice. How about that?
Wait, Jimmy, Shula. So you're going Jimmy from University of Miami.
Right now I have Jimmy from Miami, Shula, Spoelstra, and Riley. But if Maurice gets it done, I kick Spoelstra out, and I insert Paul Maurice.
I can't argue with it. I think what the Panthers are doing is harder. Now, if I go Riley and Shula, there's not even a debate.
Right.
Interesting that you go to the college route.
I mean, that college team means that college team means a lot to a lot of people down here, Goldie. You know that.
Oh,
yeah.
And they were it's funny you say that because Jimmy's Canes, right, with Jerome and Michael Irvin, all those dudes.
Yeah.
They kind of remind you of the Panthers a little bit. Like
a little bit, yeah.
We're coming in, we're kicking your ass.
Yes.
We're going to pound you. Now, the Panthers have kind of toned it down. Now they're just that good. They don't even need to do that stuff anymore. They've toned down all the physicality, I think, a little bit and all that. And it's more of a reputation thing at this point. But you talk about swagger and you talk about like Matthew Tkachuk coming in the door. Yeah, I guess that's and it's no offense to Spo, but you only have room for 4. Yeah, I think Maurice definitely goes on there.
All right, this is the most important question I can ask you. Game 6 is tonight. Yeah. Panthers trying to hoist the cup at home for the second consecutive year. The medal stand of media members who consume the most free food in the media center, okay? I am hoping Roy is the gold medalist here. I will leave it up to you. Yeah. You're there every night. You know the people who are there just to get the free food. So give me the bronze medalist here, okay?
Well, first of all, you have some people not in the media.
Yeah,
okay,
like me.
I'm not sure how they get in there. That just line up
right.
like at 4:45 for the 5 o'clock buffet. Remember, the game's not till 8:20, Stu.
I know, I've done that.
So, so you're talking about 3 and change before the game.
Right, yep. I had Roy's credential. Roy gave it to me for a second. I got in line, so anyway.
Right. I mean, you're having extra tacos.
Right, yes.
Roy, what do you think? Are you at the top of the line there? I mean, we got some – well, let me say this. We got some guys in the market that are in really good shape.
Right.
So they consume a lot of calories.
Got it. Okay.
So I'm going to give him, I'm going to give Mike Cunio from CBS 4 a break, because he has to eat, and he eats clean.
Right.
So when there's chicken, he needs 6 pieces of chicken.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a very delicate way. Nice.
Trying to be nice, Stugotz.
Yes. Roy, would you put yourself on the medal stand? Yes or no?
No, I buy my food from the media lounge, dude. I'm not really eating up in the press box.
Would you put Greg Cody on the medal stand?
Oh yeah, I would.
Okay, good. All right, that's all I need.
Yeah, he's up there. By the way, I should say once again tonight we have our Script Sports pregame show at 7:30, the local pregame show before the game. So if people want to tune in, Channel 30, wherever you watch Panther games all year. So
yes. All right.
Hopefully it's the last one.
Hopefully, yes. Worst 3 words in sports. Back to Edmonton. Goldie, good luck. Are we going to hoist the cup tonight, Roy? Give Goldie a prediction right now. Goldie can't do that.
Yeah, sure. I think the Panthers are going to win 3-1. There will be an empty net goal, and everybody's going to go crazy, and Alexander Barkov's going to lift the cup again.
All right. Yeah. Goldie, do you feel the same way? Can you say it? Can you do it?
I will say it's not very often, Stu, that I'm right, but I have been right. I thought it would be 2-2 after 4 games. I've said this publicly. And then I thought the Panthers would go Cats in 6. The best 3 words in sports, as opposed to back to Edmonton, is Cats in 6.
Right.
So I don't think they mess around with this thing. They don't want to go back to a game 7 against that guy 97 on his ice.
Right.
And I just look at it, the huge advantage they have in goal, which is why I thought the toughest series was Tampa, because Andrei Vasilevsky is the only guy, I think, in these playoffs that could do that to this team 4 times. People can beat them once, twice, and 3 times. To beat them 4 out of 7, I didn't think Toronto's goalies could do it. Carolina's goalies could do it. I don't think Edmonton's goalies could do it. So I'm going to stick with, I actually hit the score last game at 5-2. I'm going to go back-to-back.
Wow.
5-2 Panther win. And incredibly, they're partying at the Elbow Room tomorrow morning.
All right. Well, if that's the case, Goldie, you'll party in studio with us tomorrow morning, okay? Let's go.
Well, I will do my best if I'm away. Last year, I came home after the game,
right,
Stu, like 2 hours later because I was working, and my house was packed. It was loud.
I'm sure.
There was cigar smoke, and I'm going to guess 20% of the people I did not know who they were. So we'll see what happens tonight.
Right. You don't need to come in studio, but we need you back on if they do win the cup tonight. You too, Roy. Okay, both of you. I need you both back. Okay.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah, I'll be at the Elbow Room.
I know you will.
There you go.
Goldie, we appreciate it. We know it's a very busy time for you. Thank you for the time. Good luck tonight
Thanks,
to
boys.
both of
Love
you
you
because I know how much you guys care. Love you too, Goldie. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Stu.
All right, buddy.
Be good, buddy.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.